We're going to be creating some beautiful Christmas in July ornaments using some pressed flowers, leaves, and dried flowers and leaves. So now is the time of year that you can gather those things up and dry them for your crafting needs and create these beautiful Christmas ornaments. For this ornament, you're going to need some handmade paper. Now, I got this from the thrift store quite a while ago, but you can make your own or you can buy some. I've seen it in craft stores and sometimes I've even seen it in dollar stores, or you can buy some online. Wherever you like to buy your stationery, I'm going to be measuring out a 4x4 piece of this handmade paper. And you can see I'm just using a ruler and a pencil. You could make this larger if you'd like. I'm going to be just using some scissors to cut this out. Once you have your square cut out, you're going to need to find the center of your paper. So I'm going to go one corner to the next and just press in the middle to create a bit of a crease mark. And then I'm going to go the opposite direction, corner to corner, and again press it, and that will find the center of your paper. I'm going to take one corner and bring it to that center, and I'm going to use a bone folder to press down and have a crease created there. And I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. Next, you're going to want to fold up the bottoms, and you can see that the bottom on the edge there is about a 1/2 centimeter folded up. And then I use my bone folder to again create that crease. I'm just going to fold that top corner and I'm just going to tear it off. I wanted that rough kind of organic look on the top edge there, so I decided to rip it, but you can cut that off. I'm also going to cut out those corner notches that were created, and that will remove some of the bulk that will be forming if you continue to glue this all together. I really wanted this to be just nice and flat as possible. I'm going to be using some double-sided tape, and this tape is really strong. I'm going to here just a few strips, and you can see that I'm applying it to the edge inside panel. That way here I know exactly where I needed the adhesive to be. Otherwise, sometimes I misalign and then it ends up sticking in the wrong spot. Once you have those pieces cut down, you're going to want to burnish it to make sure you got some good adhesion, and then you can remove the backing and then fold the piece back onto itself and burnish again. So I have a collection of some pressed flowers and leaves, and I did these last summer. I'm going to have a video tutorial on some different ways that you can press your flowers and leaves. I'm going to have that tutorial listed down below as well as in the iCards above. And then I'm just going to right now just pick a selection of some greenery that I want to use. And I'm going to see how it looks by testing it out by layering inside. And I really like these leaves. I think they're so pretty and I like how delicate they look. I'm going to be using some hot glue. I'm very, very carefully applying that and then slipping it inside the envelope. Now, I accidentally pressed my envelope together at this point. You do not want to do that because then the paper is going to stick together. So I quickly went in there and just removed that. Again, I'm adding another little dollop of some hot glue. I like to use the hot glue because then I've got instant hold. You can use wet glue if you prefer, but you're going to have to let things dry really well before you move on to some different steps. So I like to use the hot glue. So I added a little bit of a fern leaf there, and then I'm going to go ahead and start adding some other things. I've got some baby's breath. This was actually from a flower bouquet that I had received, and I thought it would be fun to press that, but you can pick this in the wild, or you could use some carrot blossoms, whatever. I was thinking maybe even some pressed dill blossoms would be really pretty too. I've got some lavender here, little bits of geranium, snapdragons, rose petals, hydrangea, just go out into your garden, your neighbor's garden if they'll let you, as well as go out in nature and see what you can find for some really pretty pressed flowers and leaves as well. So I really like how everything is looking. So I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue on the inside of my envelope, and I'm going to press that shut. That will help hold the flowers in place and will also keep the envelope all together. I want to add some words to this, so you can use book pages, word stickers. I've got lots of word stickers here, so I'm just going to be going through these and deciding on what I would like to add to the envelope. I have my words selected, and I'm going to cut that sticker in half and then apply it, but this was not sticking to this paper very well, so I decided to use some hot glue to adhere the word sticker. You could use some wet glue, or you could also use your double-sided adhesive as well. So now I need to create a hanger. I'm going to be using this green jute twine that I had on hand. I'm just going to be measuring a piece, and then I'm going to take my envelope and I'm going to just kind of squeeze it open a little bit on the one side, and I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue and press that twine end into the glue, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I figure that way here it should balance very nicely on the tree without it flopping backwards or flopping forwards. It should work really well. You could add a tiny little bow to this if you'd like. I decided to keep it as is. I just really like how simple this is, and I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. This ornament's going to be really quick and easy. You're going to need a shipping tag, and I got a big box of them from Staples. You could use any size that you'd like. I'm going to be using some frayed burlap distress oxide ink, and I'm going to use a makeup sponge to apply it around the edge. I wanted to create like an aged look to this tag, and I find that this ink works best for that. You could of course use any color that you'd like, but again, I wanted to create a really aged look, and I thought this color worked best. I decided to add some ink to the back side of this because I was thinking perhaps you want to maybe use this as a gift tag, and that way here you've got the back decorated a little bit, ready to go, so you could put a message on the back, or maybe you want to put like a favorite Bible verse, whatever you'd like on the back of your tag. I have this pressed baby's breath again. It's so pretty. I'm going to layer a couple of pieces up as I'm going to create the look of an herbarium tag. I'll have more information about that linked down in the video description for you below. All right, so to adhere the flowers to the tag, I am going to be using this polka dot washi tape in this pretty green color. And later on, I'll show you, I end up needing to use a bit of hot glue as well, but I'll show you that in a little bit. Decided that I wanted to just add some numbers to this tag. I have number 24 and the 25 on this sticker sheet. I'm going to use the number 24 for Christmas Eve. I'm going to highlight around it just with a brown pencil crayon. I just find that it really helps the stickers just to pop against the card a little bit better. You can see that here, and I like the brown color, but you can use whatever color you'd like. I have this green jute twine. Again, I love this jute twine for Christmas ornaments. I folded it in half, put the loop through the hole, and then I'm going to pull the two ends through the loop, and then I'm going to also tie a knot off at the top and then trim off any excess. So like I said before, I needed to glue down my flowers a little bit better, so I'm just folding it back just a little bit and adding a touch of hot glue, and it is so simple but yet such an effective project for a really beautiful garden look Christmas ornament. For this Christmas ornament, I'm going to be using my Sizzix die cutting machine along with this set of Sizzix dies put out by Tim Holtz. It's the specimen card collection. I thought this would be perfect to create a really fun and unique Christmas ornament that has that garden inspiration. Here's the information on this die cutting set right there. I don't know if they still have it or not, but I'm just going to be using these 3 pieces, and I'm going to be using this cardstock along with just a solid cardstock color that will work well with that other paper. And you're going to need a piece of plastic, either just this thin sheet of plastic or a thicker piece like I'm using right here. This is like a thicker piece of acetate. I decided I'm going to use this because I really want my ornament to be nice and sturdy. So I cut a piece down, and then I'm going to be putting that square piece on the top there. And I am going to be using some washi tape just to secure my dies in place. You want to make sure that you don't tape it accidentally like I am right here to the inside portion, because sometimes that washi tape sticks really well to the paper and you might accidentally tear it. So I'm just correcting myself, and I'm just applying that to the outer edge of the die onto the paper. And I like to do this because sometimes these pieces will move on you and then you accidentally double cut it and you make a mess. So I've done that before, and then you get frustrated. So if you don't have a Sizzix die cutting machine, but you have a Cricut or a Silhouette, I will provide some links where you can purchase some SVG files that people have made over on Etsy that have specimen cards. There is also some templates that you can use just to hand cut these, or you could just make your own. But I really wanted to try this set out. So you can see that there are some score lines. I should have ran this one through one more time because my score line wasn't very good. And I have a feeling it's because I had that plastic sheet in there with this, and so it might have caused a little bit of an issue there. That was user error because I tested this die out before and it worked fine. All right, so I did manage to get it folded. I'm pressing it down with my bold folder to get a nice crease. And I'm again using my frayed burlap distress oxide ink to age the edges, as well as the inside part of our frame as well. I decided to do the same for the little tag that I created. That way here it will just kind of pop out against the little card. You can see how much better that looks. And then I am also going to age the back side of this. Again, I thought it would be really cool to use this as a tag as well as an ornament. I think this would make a really great keepsake to pass on to somebody. So I'm going to be using this Beacon foam glue. I usually use tacky glue, but I wanted to use a clear glue. And I know a lot of people will use Fabri-Tac for stuff like this. This is put out by the same company, and I've used it with plastic and it works pretty good. So I thought I would give it a whirl for this project, putting my little plastic sheet into place. And now you've got a cute little window. I'm going to let that glue set up. And before I move on, I decided I'm going to add some words to this project on the tag. I like this. It says to be preserved. I thought it was fitting for this project, but you could put like Merry Christmas on here. That would be really nice too. So I'm going to put that in place, and isn't that cute? I decided to add my brown pencil crayon to this as well. Again, it just helps the words to pop a little bit better. I'm going to glue my label on, and I'm just going to use the same glue as I already had, since I already had it out. I'm going to just add a little bit there and then put the label into place. There is a little bit of a crease line showing on our card that will give you an indication where you need to place your label. So I'm going to just put that into place, and then I'm going to let the glue set up. So this is some pressed verbena. I have to say this verbena turned out really, really well. I think it's just so beautiful. And verbena comes in so many different colors. I am going to add a mix of these corydalis leaves along with the verbena to create a pretty little cluster in our little window. So I'm just going to, again, figure out my placement first and to make sure that these elements are going to work well together before I close this up. I want to make sure I've got my placement showing within the window. So you can see I can move my things up just a little bit. Now I'm going to start gluing things into place, and I decided I am going to use wet glue for this. And that is because then it will give me some wiggle room to allow me to move things if I need to. I'm just adding some tiny little dots on the back of the leaves. And I'm going to put that into place, and then I'm going to flip my window back over top, and I noticed it was out of alignment just a little bit, so I was able to move it, and that looks so much better. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my flowers into place. The little stem, I decided to cut that off. It just didn't really work very well with this cluster. And again, I'm going to be using the wet glue. It's Aleene's tacky glue, and it works really well for a project like this, alongside with that beacon glue as well. I'm going to check one more last time to make sure everything is in the viewing window. And then I'm going to be taking the beacon clear glue again, and I'm going to glue this. And I'm only going to be going around the window side. And I'm going to make sure that the bead of glue isn't too thick because I don't want it oozing out into the window. So once you've got that all closed up, you're going to need something flat and some weight on top of that, and then you're going to set that aside to allow it to dry. You can see it's all nice and dry now. It didn't take very long as it's quick drying glue. I'm going to be using the same green jute twine. I think it's perfect for these garden-inspired ornaments. I'm going to add a touch of hot glue on the back and press the one end into place, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side to create my hanger. Okay, this is one really beautiful ornament. I love the colors. I think they're very Christmassy. I think it's going to look amazing on a garden-inspired Christmas tree. I'm going to be using this handmade tissue paper. You can see how fine and delicate it is, but it's also got some beautiful organic matter embedded into it. So I'm going to just tear a sheet. I have had this on hand for probably like 20 years. So I'm sorry, I don't know where I got it, but you could use basic regular tissue paper if that's what you have. I'm also going to be using a scrap of some burlap that I have. You can see how ragged it is. And I'm also going to be using a piece of craft paper. So I'm just going to cut everything down to size. I'm going to be kind of layering things together. I had seen some inspiration on Pinterest on some really pretty flower clusters. They were like mini wrap bouquets, and I wanted to recreate that and turn it into an ornament. So you can see how I'm just cutting things down. I want this to be a cute little wrap for my florals. I am also going to be cutting a piece of jute twine, and I'm going to be layering up some dried florals. I've got some mini roses and hydrangeas that I hung upside down to dry, as well as some pressed fern leaves and some pressed pearly everlasting. I'm going to be layering things together because I want to just get a feel of how I want things to look inside our little bundle, and then cut the stems down to size. Once you have your flowers in place the way you like, you're going to test this out and start to fold things just to see where you need to cut those ends off. I did end up using some wire cutters to cut this. I'm going to test it out again, and I'm really happy with that. I think this is such a beautiful little bouquet. I am going to take everything apart once I've got it figured out. I'm going to start to glue my layers together because I didn't want things to move around on me too much. You can see how my burlap has got a mind of its own, so I wanted to just tame it a bit. And then I'm going to layer things and glue things into place a little bit here. Not much glue, just enough to help hold things into place once I start wrapping. Because when I did my test run, things were moving around and got out of place and it just didn't look quite right anymore. So now I'm just going to go ahead and finish layering all my florals. So now I am going to fold the paper wrap and the burlap and the tissue. I'm going to scrunch it up there in the middle, and I decided I'm going to use the same jute twine, but before I add that, I decided to glue that little cluster or pinch into place and then wrap my jute twine around the cluster. I'm just tying it off with a single knot just for now because I decided I wanted to add just a little bit of an embellishment. Before I did that though, I felt like it just needed a little bit more green sticking out here and there. So I took the leaves from the Pearly Everlasting and I glued those into place. I had this cute little tag on hand and I added some words, and you can see it's got a really nice eyelet. So I decided this would be so cute tied onto our little bundle. So I'm going to just use my string to tie that on, and then I'm going to be tying it off with a bow. For the hanger, I'm using the same jute twine. I'm going to just take a strand and fold it in half to create a loop. And to get it to balance properly, I am going to be gluing it on the inside of the paper wrap. As you see me just pulling the layers apart there, adding a touch of hot glue. And then I'm going to stick the little strand ends into the glue. And I'm going to press that into place until the glue sets. I think that looks really, really cute. I think this is an adorable little ornament. You could use some flowers from a wedding bouquet or just a really lovely keepsake. Even a corsage would be really cute. If you're looking for some more Christmas ornament inspiration, you're going to want to check this playlist out right here. It is packed full of different ideas. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know your favorite ornament of the day is, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.